Lesson 2.4, Simplifying and Evaluating Expressions, is really an extension of Lesson 1.6, Order of Operations. We're going to do a little more complicated problems, which you'd expect you're further along in the year. Simplify means do all the arithmetic you can do. So if you had a problem like 3 to the second power times 4 plus 8, you have to know what are you going to do first. Are you going to do 4 plus 8 first, 3 squared first, 3 times 4 first? So you have to have some kind of protocol or way of deciding what to do. And the protocol is, well, we'll review it. There's no parentheses here, no grouping symbols, so the next would be power. So we would make 3 squared is 9, 3 times 3. Then it's 9 times 4 plus 8. Multiplication comes before addition. Even it does in this case because it comes first in the problem, but even if it was 8 plus 9 times 4, you'd do 9 times 4 first. So 36 plus 8, and we simplify that, we get 44. And I like this working down method so that each time you move from one step to the other, you've followed one of the rules. So let's look at some more examples. Simplifying expressions means just do all the arithmetic you can do. And remember, an expression is a combination of numbers, or it could be a numbers and variables, just terms using operations. So an expression could be 6n plus 8 times 3 plus 2n. And you can do some things with this. You can make it much shorter. And when you do make it shorter by doing all the arithmetic you can do, you're simplifying it. There's a difference between simplifying and evaluating an expression. Simplify means make it shorter by doing all the arithmetic that you can do, but evaluating means implies that you have a variable in the expression. So it might be 3a plus 16, and when you evaluate it, you know the value for a. Let's say a is 1. So wherever you, make that a little plainer. Wherever you have an a, you put in a 1. 3 times 1 plus 16. There's not an equation, it's just an expression. 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 plus 16 is 19. So we've evaluated by putting in a certain value for the variable. So that's what it means when there's a difference between simplify and evaluate. So before we really show some example, let's take a quick review of the rules of order of operations. The first thing you do is parentheses and other grouping operations. So here's like parentheses. A division bar can be, let me put some numbers in here. 3a plus a would be an example, which would be 4a. A division bar, you may have 12 divided by 4. 12 plus, let's say 12 plus 2 divided by 4 plus 3. So you do everything above the bar and everything below the bar. Or you could have absolute value symbols. -3 plus 6. And you'd have to do -3 plus 6 before you do anything else. That's probably the most complicated of these 4 rules because there's several different kinds of grouping symbols. Powers is just exponents, like 4 to the 3rd power. Remember, that's repeated multiplication, not repeated addition. Then multiplication, division, left to right. The tricky thing here is make sure that you follow the rule left to right. Just because multiplication is the first word in this rule doesn't mean that's the first thing you're going to do. Because if you have 14 divided by 2 times 7, well, you can get different answers. If you do 2 times 7 first, you'll get 14 divided by 14. That's 1. It's also wrong because you do the division first because it comes first. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And 7 times 7 gives you the correct answer, which is 49. And then addition and subtraction, left to right. Same idea. It's a subtraction comes first. You do that first. By the way, your logical reasoning would tell you if you've done numbers 1, 2, and 3, the only kind of thing you could have left to do is addition and subtraction. So you're kind of simplifying as you go. One type of problem that makes you think kind of hard is if you're given an expression on one side of an equal sign equals another number on the right side and say, where am I going to put parentheses to make this true? Because with no parentheses, you do 13 minus 5 is 8. and 8 plus 1 would be 9, and you'd be thinking that maybe you meant that addition sign to be a subtraction sign, but no. There's a way you can make this true. Where would you put parentheses to do something first before you did 13 minus 5? And then the result would be 7. There's really only one option, since there's only two operations here, a subtraction and an addition. If you do the addition first, you'd have to indicate that by having parentheses here. You'd have 13 minus 6, and that does indeed equal 7. That's a check. So this kind of problem to think about, and just you do trial and error with this and say, what if I put the parentheses here? Would the result be 7? And it would be. So when you have this, there's only two ways you can do it. You're either going to have parentheses like here, or they would be here. Not many options. So this is sort of a simple kind of a problem with insert the parentheses to make it true. Okay, our directions are simplify, which means do all the arithmetic we can do. And this is all, they're all numbers and the variables here. So we see we've got a grouping symbol with a division bar. We have some powers. We're going to do everything above the bar and everything below the bar, because that's how it's grouped. If we look above the bar, we have the power, so that would be 6 plus 25, because 5 squared is 25, plus 2 over 12 divided by 4. And I would have no problems if you would go ahead and do 12 divided by 4 in this step also. Now I've run out of space below, so I'm going to have to kind of move this up here. 6 plus 25 is 31, and 2 more makes 33. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. And 33 divided by 3 is 11. And that's the final answer. The final example is using some variables and being asked to evaluate x times y plus 3y when x equals 4 and y equals negative 2. To point out that this means multiply, the dot, which isn't really necessary because it could have actually written this as xy plus 3y, and the parentheses actually aren't needed in this one, but just to show you that you would do that first is why I put them in there. The 3y, the 3 and then the y means 3 times y. So two different, actually showing you three ways to indicate multiplication. You can't, if you want to do 3 times 4, you obviously can't write 3, 4. You have to put 3.4 or 3 in parentheses or 3. And then x, the multiplication symbol, the typical multiplication symbol for 3x4, 3 times 4. But when you have a number and a variable, you can write them right next to each other with no symbol in between, and that means multiply. So our next step is just put in, where you see x, put a 4. Where you see y, put negative 2. And I have to put some multiplication symbol in here between the numbers. Then we would do 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. And get that out of the way. Negative 8 plus negative 6 is negative 14. And that's the answer.